Our next fallacy is appeal to ignorance. Now, appeal to ignorance is kind of a misleading name. It's not appealing to some ignorant person or anything like that. What it is an extrapolation from your current situation, what you know or don't know, what evidence you have or don't have, to a stronger or in principle statement about what could be known or not known in the future. So, an appeal to ignorance isn't an appeal to an ignorant person so much as an inference from a current failure to accomplish a goal or to establish something as a fact to an in principle statement that it can't be done or proven. In its simplest form, it will often just say, we don't have definitive proof that this is true, hence it must be false. We don't have definitive false that this is false, or proof that this is false, hence it must be true. But oftentimes it will take the form of, we can never know this, we can never discover this, we can never decide amongst these possibilities. Now, the difficulty with appeal to ignorance is that it's extrapolating from our current situation to all the different ways that the world might turn out. It's extrapolating into the future. And this is a very risky kind of inference. Even if we take the past into account and we use the past and our current situation as our sample, that's a sample that isn't drawn from potential futures. And so as a result, our extrapolation is more like an analogy. The future is going to resemble what's going on now in this very important way. Now, sometimes this is a legitimate, reasonable argument. So, for instance, if you've got a presumption of innocence, as you do in legal trials, and the prosecution fails to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, then you say, look, we don't have definitive proof that you're guilty, hence we're going to declare you innocent. And likewise, if we have a bunch of experts with the appropriate tools and funding and time who investigate something, that gives us a pretty good reason, should they fail, to suppose that it's not possible. But even in those circumstances where we have experts with good training and funding and opportunity and time, it isn't as nearly as clear cut as we oftentimes think it is. So, for example, in the 1600s, 17th century, there was a mathematician. He was really a lawyer, but his hobby was mathematics, and he was really good at his hobby. His name was Pierre de Fermat. And he was a mathematical prodigy. And he made contributions to analytic geometry, to calculus, to probability theory, to number theory, importantly. And oftentimes he would just tell people what his results were without offering proofs. He'd write it in a letter to someone, for instance. And as a result, oftentimes he engaged in a lot of disputes with people about who had actually proven what. So he had a dispute with Descartes, he had a dispute with Wallace, no relation. And it was because oftentimes he would just state a conclusion, say there was a proof, but he wouldn't include the proof in a statement. And it was also just because he was writing them in the margins of books or sending them in letters to people. Now, after he passed away, his son, in one of his books, found in the margin the statement of a theorem, right, together with the statement that the margin was too small to put the proof in. And he looked around for the proof and couldn't find it. This came to be known as Fermat's last theorem. He said there was a simple proof. Mathematicians spent centuries trying to prove Fermat's last theorem. And all those centuries that go by between the early 1600s or so, well, 1665, say, and all the way up into the 20th century, right, mathematicians tried, but none succeeded. And it was widely considered something that wasn't a theorem or wasn't capable of being proven. It wasn't a good project for mathematicians to engage in. And this was pretty universally accepted as true. Mathematicians themselves thought, we can't do this. All right? But in 1993, Andrew Wiles came up with a proof. He was a British mathematician. He came up with a proof of Fermat's last theorem. Right? He discovered an error, corrected it in 1994, published the actual proof in 1995. Right? And it was shocking and revelatory to people because nobody believed this could be proven. And so as a result, even when we have experts with appropriate tools and long periods of time, even then, sometimes our inferences can go wrong. Our knowledge of the current situation isn't necessarily a good representative sample from which to make inferences about how the future will unfold. And so when we make these kinds of claims, we commit the fallacy of appeal to ignorance. And these sorts of claims are oftentimes made in the context of scientific theories. So people who deny global warming or climate change, right? People who deny evolution, people who think the coronavirus is a hoax, they all say things like there is no definitive proof. Right? Evolution is just a theory. Maybe humans contribute, but we don't know how much they contribute to climate change. These sorts of things. This is our assessment of the current evidence, hence this must be what's true, or this must be what's not true. Right? So in my own area, in cognitive science and artificial intelligence, one of the great examples of this is what artificial intelligence systems can do. So there was a claim made by people that AI systems could never play chess as well as human beings. And IBM ponied up at that time about like $1 million, I believe, and created Deep Blue, which is a computer chess program that started beating chess players pretty regularly. And people said, oh, well, sure, regular chess players, but not masters chess players. And eventually, Deep Blue started beating masters chess players. No, but grandmaster chess players eventually started beating them. Oh, but the best chess player in the world at that time was Kasparov, really a tremendous chess player. But eventually, Deep Blue beat Kasparov as well. So the current situation just didn't provide us with any good evidence to suppose that artificial intelligence couldn't in fact come up with programs that could beat even the best chess player in the world at that time. So appeal to ignorance is a type of inductive inference from our current situation to how the future may unfold, but it's a speculative inference, very speculative and risky. And so oftentimes the evidence that's given to us, our current situation, our assessment of the current situation, it provides us with woefully inadequate reasons to suppose that the inference, this in-principle claim, or this claim about definitive truth or falsity, is in fact highly likely to be true given our evidence.